Welcome to this video. We're going to talk about the A3 template and the 8-step problem-solving model. On the screen you can see an A3 template. This support video is really about that, to give you a little bit more detail about how to use this template as opposed to the standard training within the Lean Practitioner or Lean Expert training modules. At the top of the A3 template you can actually see there's a process description, and that's really asking for the identification of the department or the process or the particular area that you're looking at. There's a date, and then there's the name of the person responsible for this, or the team member or supervisor or manager, etc. The other thing that you'll notice about the A3 template is that it follows the PDCA, or the Plan, Do, Check, Act format. In the left hand side you can see the vertical column which has the plan. So everything step 1 through 4 is about planning. Step 5 and 6 is the do element of it. This is what you have to do in order to execute the plan. The step 7 is the check element of it, and then the step 8 is the act or the action part of it. And we'll go through each of the steps in turn just to give you a better overview of that. So let's start with step 1. Step 1 is really about the theme or background. And there are some questions within each of the steps to give you an idea of what information you would need to enter into that box. Now you've got to remember there's not a lot of room here. Some people expand these things out into huge wall-sized charts. They're called an A3 template for a reason. The paper size was limited, particularly by Toyota, because that's what they didn't want, was reams and reams and reams of paper that really was a lot of useless information that nobody could read. They wanted a concise document that could give you the bullet point version of the necessary points and get everybody focused on that so that you could keep moving in the right direction. The purpose of the 8 steps is to build up a storyboard of what you are going to do in a step-by-step process in order to A, recognize the problem, B, define the problem, and then C, how are you going to eliminate the problem. And then you're going to prove that you did eliminate it or you didn't, and that's the final part of it. So step 1 is about the theme or background. What are you trying to do with this process? You need to give some background information about the problem. What's the problem? What is it? Is it a physical problem? Is it causing financial issues? Is it a quality issue? Is it an employee issue? What is the problem? Define it. And then give an explanation so that people can understand the problem better. They get an idea of what you're talking about, and they can put it into context within the organization. And then you need to state the importance of the problem. Is it really serious because it's a safety issue and somebody could get hurt if it doesn't get fixed? Is it a financial issue that could have a huge impact on the company? Or is it a customer related issue? Because that's really important too. So a lot of people, they'll elevate them to high, medium or low importance. I have a problem with that because usually everything ends up being high importance. So really people get to a point where they tune that out and they don't really take any notice of it. To me, everything's important. If it's got to the stage where it's being placed on a A3, it's important. Step 2, what you're going to do with step 2 is you're going to define the current condition, the current state. Most people do this by drawing a diagram of the current condition. You can use a process flowchart. You can use a value stream map. Some people create their own floor layouts and they do a diagram of the area where the problem is. You need to highlight the problem. Where is the problem on the particular diagram, whatever it is that you're drawing? And then the most important part of this process in step 2 is you need to really give some data to prove that this problem is really a problem. How do you verify that it's a problem? You must be able to validate that data. So it's standard data that everybody would understand. Everybody in the organization knows what it is. They know that it's real data and they know that this is a real issue, because that's the way you're going to really prove that this is a problem. Once you've done that, then you move to step 3 and you look at the root cause analysis. So now you're going to start taking the data, you're going to collect more data maybe, you're going to collect more information, and then you're going to analyze all of that data to identify the root cause or causes of the problem. The tools that you'll use in this are the 7 basic quality tools: fishbone diagram, Ishikawa diagram, cause and effects diagram, Pareto chart, the 5 whys. Go through the 5 whys and then end up at the 5 whys and the 1 how, which is basically, once you've got to the root cause, how do we fix this to eliminate that root cause or causes of the problem. Once you get to step 4, then you're recognizing what the target condition is. So, okay, we've got all this information now. We know what the problem is. We understand the current state, how the problem's causing issues within the process or processes, and then we know what the root causes of those issues are. So now what's the target condition? What are we actually aiming for? What is acceptable to your organization? What can you do in the capabilities of to reach a target condition? What would that acceptable level be? And then once you've identified that target condition or the goal that you're aiming for, you would create a diagram, a value stream map, a future state map, for instance, or a flow chart, or some other kind of a layout diagram or something like that. And in that diagram, you would identify where you have eliminated the root causes of the waste or the problem. And then at that point, you would also define the measures or metrics which would be the expected results once this is implemented. So if this target condition becomes a reality, what would your expectations be in terms of the metrics and the outcome? And this is what you're going to be measuring the success of this project against, based on the current condition versus the target condition. Now, once you've done steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's all the planning part of it. The next part, step 5, is, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to move from current condition to target condition? What actions are we going to take? What countermeasures do we need to put in place in order to make this happen? And you're going to define those. Now, there could be 1, there could be 5, there could be 10. Obviously, you don't want too many, because the more you have, the more difficult it is to manage them and to make things happen in a timely manner. You know, usually I like to keep countermeasures less than 10 in the initial stage. In fact, 5 is perfect, 10 is okay. More than that, it starts to get a management nightmare, trying to get everything together. So that's what you want to do at this stage. Once you've identified those countermeasures, you're recognizing what you're going to do to eliminate the root causes of the problem and to reach that target condition. How are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? And who's going to do it? So that's the next step. Step 6, implement. When are you going to do it? What is the final finish date that you need to get this done by? And that's going to be based on the organization's schedule in terms of the level of importance for this. If it's ultra important, they'll obviously want it done very quickly. But you've got to remember, for every minute that you lose, if there's a potential financial crisis here, then you need to get this done pretty quickly. If it's a safety issue and there's a potential for a loss of life or something like that, then you obviously need to get it done as soon as possible. Who is going to take responsibility for each of the action items or countermeasures? You need to designate a person to look after each one of them. Don't just give 10 items to one person. You can give a manager or a senior executive or something like that control in terms of the management of the whole process. Delegate all of the countermeasures out to specific people that have got the skill sets to be able to take care of them. And then you need to define what they're going to do. What do they need to do? Okay, they've got this action item or this countermeasure, but what do you want them to do? You want them to implement it? Do you want them to train people? Do you want them to collect data? Do you want them to create a report? What are you asking them to do? So you've got to define that. So that's what step 6 is about. What is the process of implementation? How do we execute these countermeasures? And then step 7 really takes place during and after the execution process. So we're actually going to evaluate the process. So in step 4, at the target condition, you defined the performance metrics, the expected results when you eliminated this problem. These are the results we would expect. So the evaluation process is, did we meet the expected results? Did we eliminate the problem to a level that we met those expected results? If you did, then that's great. You've actually achieved the goal, and you can just do standard follow-up from that point on. If you didn't, then you need to go back through the process again and then say, okay, where do we make a mistake? Where do we not get the right information? Where do we not recognize the correct root cause? We were looking at symptoms as opposed to root causes, or we put the wrong countermeasures in place, and so on. So that's what you really need to do at this point. Now, step 8 is follow-up. I like to follow up 30, 60, and 90 days. The reason I like to do 30, 60, 90 days is because it really helps to build in a long-term focus on this process. The first 30 days, you're going to be looking at, did we complete all of the action items recognized in the A3? 60 days, you're going to be collecting data and really asking the question, is this working? Are we achieving the goal? Is it meeting the expected results? And by 90 days, you're going to actually ask a very simple question, is, did it work or did it not? Did we meet the improvement? Did we meet the expected results? If it was no, then you've got to make a decision to close this as a project and then redo the whole thing because there were some mistakes made. If it was yes, then you've got to create this as a best practice and standardize the process and get everybody taught to that level. And that's really the 8-step process. So again, you're going through the Plan, Do, Check, Act, PDCA, or the Deming cycle, and that's helping you to stay on track so you can see all of the different activities and how they fall into alignment with the PDCA cycle. So hopefully this video was helpful, and best of luck using the A3 template.